Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Are you ready to understand life through the lens of expansion and contraction? Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone, and welcome to the 9th installment in the new series, Expansion and Contraction, the Dualistic Nature of Life. In this week's episode, I would like to cover the idea of vibration through expansion and contraction. If you're familiar with my book and these podcasts, you're very familiar with the idea of vibration. And when we hold a higher vibrational frequency, we are in a state of expansion. But when the frequency lowers, it's contraction. We can understand this by recognizing that when the frequency of energy lowers or slows, we then perceive it as matter, as something solid. This is contraction. And likewise, when the frequency is higher, or it's moving faster, then the more imperceptible the energy becomes. Another way to understand this, which is quite interesting, is something that I heard a grandmaster of a ninja tradition in Japan speak of. And the idea was that if human beings raise their vibration, they have a good heart, things like that, that raising their vibration can actually result in a form of concealment or invisibility from those who would want to cause them harm because they're no longer capable of noticing them. And the idea is that a person who would want to cause you harm, a bad person, normally has a very low vibrational frequency. And someone with a higher frequency, especially if your heart is open and you are in a state of appreciation, you are so different that it's almost like being in two different dimensions. Now, when we refer to vibration, which we know all energy vibrates, we're referring to the vibrational frequency as sort of a state of aliveness within the energy. And as we also know, energy never dies. It always is. But it does change in terms of frequency. And naturally, there's a wide range of frequency. When our energy is low, we feel sluggish, which is considered to be contraction. Whereas when we raise our vibration, when we raise that frequency, we tend to have abundant energy and we're full of vitality. And yes, you guessed it, that's when we're in a state of expansion. When we're in a bad mood, we may not want to talk to anybody. This is contraction. However, when we're feeling great, we're in a wonderful mood, we want to speak to others. We want to interact and connect with others. This is expansion. So through this, we can then ascertain that vibration in a state of contraction is when our vibration lowers, which we recognize through negative emotions. This generally takes place due to negative thoughts and/or negative emotions, which are generated in the mind. This draws us into our own head where we retreat, causing a sense of contraction. And this is why we take the time to engage in mind practices and spiritual practices in order to either eliminate as much as possible or at least offer some relief through changing these negative thought and emotional patterns into more positive ones. And when we succeed in those practices, then we are experiencing our vibration in a state of expansion. And that is when we are in a state of expansion. And we understand this through positive emotions, right? These emotions are indicators of our vibrational frequency. And we can understand this another way, just like with intention, which will be coming up in the next podcast. We can see that thoughts or emotions are both capable of letting us know where our frequency is. They're also capable of altering that frequency. But it can also come from our consciousness. Consciousness produces only positive responses. Gives us a hint as to why in all of these practices we're trying to quiet the mind, which is typically negative, and tune back into our consciousness, which is only positive. And even when, or especially when, these emotions and the vibrational frequency are a result of our consciousness, we can truly feel the expanding nature of things. The more we are in our mind, the more we are in our head, the lower our vibration tends to be, and the more isolated we become. Even in a room filled with fantastic people, you may likely still feel isolated, still feel alone. However, when we are tuned into consciousness, then we are expanding outward. We want to interact with people. We aren't retreating into our head. We are experiencing everything around us to a far greater degree. And we see our connection, the oneness that exists. And that is truly an incredible way to get in touch with the feeling of expansion. It's quite easy to see then how keeping our vibrational frequency up offers us the ability to live in a state of expansion. And that is when we are capable of living a fully engaged life. And when that vibrational frequency lowers, we start to pull back from the potential that we have to live fully engaged, and we stop living fully engaged. And if that frequency lowers more and more, then what happens is we aren't even really living anymore. We are merely existing. And this is why it's important to pay attention to your thoughts and emotions so that you can recognize when your mind is being negative, and you can consciously choose to change that. This is also why we don't allow our emotions to rule our actions. Instead, we learn to have our emotions under control. This way, we can use them as indicators as to where our vibration is. However, when we are ruled by our emotions, and we are out of control that way, then we have this roller coaster ride of vibrational frequencies, most of which are quite low. Since the last episode was on romantic relationships, let's tie this into vibration. This is when we can clearly see that opposites do not attract. If we understand vibration, we understand that opposites simply do not attract. People of two very different vibrational frequencies will not make for a very happy, healthy, or harmonious relationship. These opposing frequencies do not coalesce, and there will be constant friction. However, if we can come to know our own vibrational frequency, to be aware of it, then we are better equipped to find someone who is vibrating at the same frequency we are, or at least very close to that. This will make for a very happy relationship, vibrationally speaking. When we are truly in love, our heart opens and expands in all directions. Expansion. When we are in a toxic relationship, we pull back. We retreat into our own mind. We shut down. These are all obvious signs of contraction. So, based upon all of this, you can understand the importance of all of the various practices that I've covered on this program, and how when we get to the very heart of the matter, when we get to the very core of things, we find vibration. And when we can come to know ourselves, our life, and energy itself according to vibrational frequency, we can really start to take a look at how we handle life. And if we have the practices that allow us to be more mindful of our own vibration and its frequency from moment to moment, then we have a good chance of really mastering our sense of self, and through that, the ability to live a fully engaged life. We can grasp a firm understanding for vibrational frequency, even with physical posturing and movements, right? If someone is standing there and they have their arms crossed, that's contraction in body language. But if they have their hands out in front of them and they're being expressive, or they're reaching out to shake a hand or put a hand on your shoulder, that's expansion. We can look at this too through like a Tai Chi form, where the movement in the form is based on a series of postures, and each posture is a sequence of movements. These movements are all expansion and contraction. I think they usually call it something like expanding and gathering, but it's the same thing. We have particular body movements and positions that are stretching outward. We also have some that are pulling back. And this is usually, this pullback is a state of contraction within our movement and our energy. And within a Tai Chi form, even if your body is moving in a constant state of expansion and contraction, or another way they put it is opening and closing, if you are still in the proper frame of mind, which it should be done like a moving meditation, extreme relaxation so you can generate a sense of feeling for the flow that your body is going through in the movement. And if we are aware of that and we are capable of holding a meditative state, then we can go beyond mind and we can use a form like this to train ourselves to hold a higher vibration regardless of what our body is going through at the time. And this is extremely relevant because a Tai Chi form is based on the Tai Chi symbol of yin and yang. And this represents the dualistic nature of life. So while it's natural to go through things that are positive and negative, we also see that they always change. And the idea through all of the practices that we gather and focus on succeeding in are geared to help us have greater moments of expansion and to lessen the fall of any vibrational frequency if there is something causing a state of contraction. And there may even come times in our life where we need to conserve our energy, like if we become ill. So this is contraction, but we can make it a positive thing because we can bring that energy in instead of giving so much energy out at that moment in time. And through so doing, we can allow the body to heal without losing our vibrational frequency, thus allowing us a greater state of mastery over our vibrational frequency, no matter what's going on in our life. Holding a higher vibrational frequency is extremely important, and it makes for a much better life. This is why I put out the Appreciation Mastery Program, because it allows you to hold a state of appreciation. And when we are in a constant state of appreciation, our vibrational frequency is quite high. So there's love, bliss, appreciation. These are the highest types of frequencies. This is what we are trying to do, is to be able to hold that state as much as humanly possible, allowing us to embrace a higher vibrational frequency We have now covered a wide range of topics regarding the contrast, the dualistic nature of expansion and contraction, learning how to notice when we are in either so we can more consciously choose to live with a higher vibrational frequency in a state of expansion. For when we are standing in a state of expansion, our life is in a state of expansion. We are capable of living fully engaged, and life becomes just an incredible adventure. It is necessary then to engage in certain practices that will allow us to raise our vibrational frequency and live in a state of expansion. But we can start to practice this right now by paying attention to the things we're thinking and the emotions we are feeling, because they are indicators of where our vibrational frequency is. And we want to notice and get comfortable feeling when our vibration is starting to lower so we can stop it and consciously raise it back up. We want to know and acknowledge when the vibrational frequency is higher and notice how good it feels. Notice the great things that start to happen to you in life. And this is just one more reason why mindfulness is so incredibly important, because it gives us the ability to be aware of our vibrational frequency, of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our consciousness. And it gives us the ability to consciously choose where our frequency is, to be positive and expanding or negative and contracting. The choice is ours. The power is in our hands. Please make sure to visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. You can get an autographed copy of Expansion Mastery there. And, of course, there are a lot of other cool things there to check out. And please continue to help us by liking and subscribing and sharing and all of that other stuff we can do on social media. Until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.